Welcome back to the Super Hornet Podcast. My name is Evan Hale, and today we got a very special guest. It's Matt Alquiza. He's a host of the BuzzBeat podcast, writer for the Charlotte Hornets Sports Illustrated. Just all things Charlotte Hornets content. He's your guy. Check out his Twitter. Check out everything. I'll have it all linked below. But welcome, Matt.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Sorry, my dog is in my room with me tonight, and he is just really being annoying at this current moment.
You see right here, I got a cat tree, and there's a cat right there. And I've had them jump on me while I'm recording. You know, there's so much you can do. But we, gotta love our pets, and you just let it roll with it.
So that's today, it, man. We tell everybody we love our dog. We don't like him.
We don't like him. I like that. But today we're going to be talking about off-season moves for the Hornets. You just did an awesome video with the guys over at the BuzzBeat talking about the draft and your top 7 guys. So we'll talk about kind of where you are for those guys, and I think we might even do a lottery sim to see, base that on what we're doing. But we're just going to talk about the off-season moves, what we want to do. So I think I'm going to start with the lottery sim here, and we'll just go from there. We'll see what we want to do. So I'm going to sim it. You can't see it. And we fall to 6 because that's what every lottery sim does for me. So I've never had us stay in the top 4 except for once when we got the first pick, and I've done the lottery sim a lot. So hopefully I'm not, they're not looking at my luck on there. But we fall to 6 there. That takes away a lot of guys. But first things first. Who you had a top 7? Who were your top 7? Because you kind of you touched on everybody else's, but I didn't feel like you didn't mention who your 7 in order were. So who were your top 7 guys?
Yeah, I was playing a little bit of point guard on that last night. So yeah, my top 7 in order. It's Cooper Flagg, number 1, obviously. Yeah. That's every single big board you see from here on out until the end of June is going to have him at number 1. Then Dylan Harper, the point guard from Rutgers, is 2. VJ Edgecombe, shooting guard from Baylor, 3. Con Knipple, shooting guard from Duke, is 4. Ace Bailey, forward from Rutgers, 5. Colin Murray Boyles, forward from South Carolina, is 6th. And then Derek Queen from Maryland is 7th. So that's my top 7.
Mm-hmm. So you got Knipple at 4. That's higher than most people have him, I would say. I usually see him from like 5 to 8 is where you see him. Mm-hmm. You guys are pretty low on Ace Bailey, but you also were doing it for the Hornets, right? So that's kind of your big boards for the Hornets. I'm definitely like Ace Bailey is a guy. He is very interesting. I think if the Hornets get like the 3rd pick and they take him, I'm going to believe in him, if that makes any sense, because I think that they're not going to take a guy that they don't believe can improve. Like they didn't take Tijon because of his skill on the court. They took him because they believed in what he could do. So I think it's going to be a big tell if the Hornets were to land like the 3rd pick. But a dream scenario for the Hornets, I think, is if you fall to 6, is Con Knipple. I think he's a good fit for what the Hornets are trying to do with space on the floor and taking a lot of threes. And I think he's an underrated defender. And I think he could be – you compare him to Desmond Bane in your video. I think Desmond Bane is a great comparison. He plays good defense. He can handle the ball, and be that 3rd kind of guy for you. Might not have the same upside as a lot of the other guys ahead of him in the draft, but and even like Ace Bailey, I think has a much higher upside, but he's more of a sure thing, and I kind of want a sure thing in this draft if we can get it, because Tijon last year just was not that. And I love Tijon. I think I give him a lot of crap because I like him so much. I support him more than most people do. So is that kind of your mindset? You think Knipple would be a good, if he was available, he's your guy at 6?
Yeah, I mean, he's my guy anywhere lower than 3. I think it's Flagg is top tier. Harper is in a tier of his own at number 2. And then from 3 to like 7, all those guys are kind of in the same tier for me. Edgecombe, I think, has become like the consensus number 3 prospect. So if we're assuming Charlotte is down from 4, he won't be there. But yeah, if Knipple's there at 6, then I mean, I'm running to the podium if I'm the Charlotte Hornets. On my big board, I have Colin Murray Boyles there at 6, and we talked about him a little bit last night. I don't know how much you've had a chance to watch him, but big, like strong forward from South Carolina is like 6'7", 6'8", really, really good hands on offense and defense. He can pretty much do everything but shoot, which that kind of makes me feel like he could be a Hornets guy, because that's kind of everybody that they bring in.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's guys who are really like strong defenders, guys who like are connective on offense. The team is not, or the team is bigger than them kind of guy. And I really like him. And I said this last night, my like high end comp for Colin Murray-Boyles is Grant Williams. And Charlotte did so much with Grant at the beginning of the year as a screener for LaMelo and Brandon. They used him in a lot of like flare actions at the top of the key that he would either like set the screen for Brandon or LaMelo. They would catch it. If their pass isn't there, it would then go straight into a dribble handoff with Grant Williams and just let him like, play make from the top of the key. I think Colin Murray-Boyles can do all of those things at a high level. And he brings the same like defensive intensity. The one thing he can't do that Grant does is shoot threes because Grant's spacing was really, really missed as the year went on. But if in this specific lottery sim that you have cursed us to pick number 6, it's Murray-Boyles for me there.
And we could talk about if we will land a better pick as well for like the rest of the offseason. Yeah, I just pulled up his stats. He led the SEC in field goal percentage and effective field goal percentage. That was a good league, especially like they may not have performed as well, in the postseason, but as a league, they had an incredible regular season. I mean, obviously South Carolina didn't make it that far. He shot 20, he round up 27% from 3. But definitely a guy who can score inside. He's 6'7", probably looks like maybe undersized power forward is what it's looking like. He's 6'7", isn't even that undersized in the NBA anymore. You got guys, all over. But definitely a guy. I've watched some tape on him. I need to watch some more. South Carolina wasn't very good this year, so it's kind of hard to watch their games.
The rest of the team is so bad at South Carolina.
He's a guy I definitely was like, I didn't watch as much stuff because I'm like, I don't want to fall. I'll watch his stuff if we fall like to 6 or 7. I don't know if because I think he's definitely jumping up in the draft boards, and I'm excited to see once we get the guys going to Chicago and doing the draft combine, how things measure out and how things look. I think that could affect a guy like VJ Edgecombe we were talking about, because I was at the Raleigh games for the first round of March Madness, so I got to see all the Duke guys, and then I got to see Baylor play. He's not very big in person, VJ. I'm a big VJ Edgecombe fan. He seemed like a good person. I was in the Baylor section when I was at the game, so he came up in the section. I didn't personally talk to him, but he talked to a lot of fans. He was there with family. Seems like a good guy too. I root for him to succeed. I kind of give him like a Victor Oladipo compliment. Maybe not as good at shooting, but very athletic, very good at defense. Maybe he's a little shorter, but a little more athletic. I definitely like that kind of fit with the Hornets. It just really depends on if you want to move Brandon Miller to the 3, which I know they've kind of expressed they want to keep him at the 2, but I imagine that if you're at 3 or at 4 and VJ's on the board, you might want to just consider taking him and dealing with it. I mean, you could always, run him off the bench to start and go from there. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be as NBA ready for like certain aspects of his game, but he is a guy, like I said, I saw him play in person. It's so interesting watching a guy play in person where like, the camera's not focused on him, if that makes any sense. There's a cat right there getting in my stuff. But the way he was coaching the offense and the defense when he wasn't in the actions, and the way that he didn't score a lot of points that game, but it's because they used him as a distraction. They put him in the corner a lot, let him run the offense as more like an on-court coach. And also, there was only 2 guys in the notice doing this, at least at the games I attended. But him and Cooper Flagg were the only guys I saw coaching the team from the bench, especially on defense, when they were on like their side of the court where they were sitting down. Both Cooper and Cooper Flagg were both standing up, pointing at things out, instead of, trying to rest. They obviously weren't in the game. They were resting, but they were making sure they were coaching up. And I mean, Cooper Flagg was doing that against a 16 seed, like they were up by like 20. He was still helping out. Like he's got that drive to win. I do like Cooper Flagg a lot. For the same reason I like VJ Edgecombe a lot.
Yeah, and you said something there that I want to hit on. I think the fit with Edgecombe in Charlotte is just perfect, man. And we talked a little bit about this last night, and kind of just when you're scouting draft prospects, for the Hornets specifically, I feel like you can go one of two directions. You can either go in the direction of him going to scout based on the talent on the roster, or two, you're going to scout based on what we know from the front office, like what they're looking for in guys. And it feels like Edgecombe kind of checks both boxes along with Cooper Flag. I mean, if you drop Cooper Flag on this roster tomorrow, I think they're going to compete for the playoffs next year. Edgecombe isn't going to have that kind of day one impact, but he does seem like the exact archetype brand of player that Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee really, really love. You know, like I said earlier, the defensive intensity, he's switchable on defense. He can guard probably three positions depending on how his wingspan turns out at the combine. We talked a little bit about his size. I don't think he's that big. I think he was like 6'2", 6'3". He's going to have a hard time. Yeah, going to have a hard time guarding small forwards at that size. But if he has a wingspan that can kind of make up for his lack of height, I feel like his strength and athleticism will give him the opportunity, make him, more available to play the three on defense. And in the NBA right now, man, I mean, you said it a second ago, like what is a position at this point, right? The Warriors are finals contenders and they're starting Draymond Green at center. The Lakers' best lineups have Rui Hachimura at center. The days of the traditional big man, I'm not going to say they're dead because there are some like Ivica Zubac and Nikola Jokic are battling like Godzilla and King Kong in the paint for half of those games. So like that style of basketball is still alive and well, but it's definitely a dying breed. So you can, I would have no hesitation playing VJ Edgecombe and Brandon Miller on the wing together. Sure, they might get bullied by some stronger small forwards, but you're going to have to give up something, right? There's no such thing as a perfect NBA roster. Even the Thunder are pretty close to finding one. But yeah, I don't think there's any sort of fit concern with him and Miller running the wing together at all.
Definitely. And we're going to get into some free agents and some trade candidates here in a minute. Actually, we could probably just get into that now. Yep. One of the guys who I think is going to be on the Hornets radar is Domantas Sabonis. I think there was talks with him and the Kings about his future with the team. I think that they're at two different points at this point. I think we're about to see the Kings blow it up. They just changed front offices, and I think a lot of the guys over there, they made a lot of they acquired DeMar DeRozan last offseason, Zach LaVine at the deadline, trading away to Aaron Fox, and now you see Sabonis seems like he's not very happy with the situation. And I mean, the Hornets have proven that they don't believe in Mark Williams. They traded him once. I can see a world where Domantas Sabonis is a guy you bring in, and he's a guy. He led the league in rebounds this year. He's led the league in rebounds multiple seasons. Averaged 19.1 points per game, 6 assists per game. He's not the greatest 3-point shooter, but he can space the floor. And you do see Charles Lee run the actions where they have the big at the top of the key or slightly off to one of the wings, but at the 3-point line are very close to it, running the actions. He's a great passer, kind of Jokic light in that aspect, to a degree. I think he could really fit what the team wants to do, and I think he doesn't have like the box score like stocks stats, but he is an underrated defender as well.
Yeah, I feel like this has become a pretty common sentiment amongst Hornets fans is a desire to trade for Domantas Sabonis. And I got to be honest, man, I'm not on board with them doing that. And I don't think they're going to make any sort of big swing for a quote unquote star player this offseason. A lot of what you said makes sense. And I think the fit is there with Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Especially if you and I think you can play Sabonis alongside Mark Williams. Mark Williams is not the greatest rim protector in the world for somebody his size, but I think he could clean up some of Sabonis's defensive mistakes. But man, everything that this front office has said in the past year since they took over is that this is going to be like a slow build, right? It seems like everything they're talking about is process. Patience. They're accruing first round picks in 27 or 26, 27, 28. I don't think it is this. I don't think this is the offseason to make a swing for a guy like Sabonis. I think everything that the Hornets are going to do from here until next summer, and this all changes if they draft Cooper Flag, right? Like that accelerates their timeline a ton. But assuming they don't, because odds are there's an 86% chance they land somebody else, I think it's all just about internal development, continuing to grow the guys that they have. maybe make some shrewd moves on the margins like they have with the DeQuan Jeffries trade last year, the Josh Green trade, the Josh Okogie trade is a guy who
I like really Okogie a lot.
So yeah, I don't think this is the offseason for them to do that. When you hear me say that, what's your thoughts when you hear me say that?
I slightly agree. I slightly don't agree for certain guys. Like, I think they're going to ask around. Because I think the other guy I have here, I was going to ask you what your thoughts are on Zion. I'm somebody, it's one of those things. It's very polarizing. I get why they would. I get why they wouldn't. I think I wasn't a fan of trading for Zion until Joe Dumars took over and they said they were going to trade Zion. Because I think that brings the asking price down.
Yep.
And I think if you can trade Miles Bridges and Josh Green and Nick Smith Jr. and like 2 picks, maybe I'm good with that. Anything more than that, I'm good. I don't want to, and I think I'm just going to give my piece about Zion. I said I'm very on the fence either way. I will say he had a lot of quotes this season about how he came into the season injured, but he came back, and then everybody else was hurt while he was coming in, and then they didn't play him much. He said he could play back-to-backs. They weren't letting him play back-to-backs. They were keeping him out for injury management. He kept saying things like, "I can play," and then they sat him, pretty early at the end of the season, kind of like we did with LaMelo, but even earlier, to try to, get their draft pick. So he only played 30 games last year. I really think he would have played like 65, maybe more. And most of those games he missed were at the beginning of the season from the injury he recovered from. And then he looked really good when he was playing, looked really good. And he's just a polarizing character. And like I said, I was don't trade for Zion because they're going to ask too much. But now that they're shopping him, I want at least, I would feel better if I knew the Hornets at least called on him, Yeah. And he's a guy, he's from South Carolina, went to Duke, Carolina guy. They're talking about, the fans and wanted stuff for the fans. And he's the only guy I could really see the team making a swing on if they were to make a swing.
Yeah, man. I have such a hard time talking about Zion because I love watching him play.
Oh my God, so much fun to watch.
When he is healthy and he is going, I don't know if there's a player in the NBA that I like watching more than him. It's just such that throwback style. He's like getting all of his shots in the restricted area, but he's so strong and so quick, and he's a great
6'7" Shaq.
Yeah, man. You said it. Like, if there's one guy for Charlotte to make a swing on, especially if you're getting him at a discount. And I think there is a world where they do, especially if the rumors continue to swirl that Dumars is mandated to trade him, then you're right. The price goes down. Him being injured this past year, the price goes down. His whole career, being full of injuries, the price goes down. If he is healthy for 70 to 75 games, which there may not be a bigger if in the game of basketball right now than
maybe it's LaMelo is the only other if.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, we have Charlotte has one of those too. You're trading for an all NBA forward at a discount, and it's bad. It's bad process for the Hornets to not call and just see what the asking price is, man. That play-in game against the Lakers last year, the first 42 minutes. I think Zion had 40 points, was getting everywhere he wanted, just completely dismantling AD and LeBron. But then it's classic Zion pulls his hamstring with 4 minutes to go and the Pelicans lose. That is just the yin and the yang of his career, is these incredible flashes of talent that, again, you'd be crazy to not gamble on.
Oh yeah.
Versus you see him on the sidelines wearing street clothes for 60% of the season, and you're just kind of stuck watching him. So yeah, man, I'm obsessed with this talent. I went and watched him play when he was in high school. I was living in South Carolina at the time, so we went and watched him play in the state semifinals.
Yeah,
and it was like a spiritual experience. Roy Williams was sitting courtside, watching him. I don't know.
He was supposed to go to North Carolina first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, North Carolina, Clemson, and somehow ended up at Duke was the third choice. But yeah, even in high school, man, he had just stood under the basket and they would throw him lobs and he would dunk on tiny private school kids without even getting a running start. I kind of felt bad for the kids he would play against in high school, but yeah, man, I would be on board with the Zion trade. That's you said, that's the one guy that if they're making a big swing this summer, it's a home run swing for Zion for sure.
Yeah, so you went to the semifinal game. The championship game was against Myrtle Beach Christian Academy, which is, I live in Myrtle Beach.
Cool.
And a bunch of my friends, well, I didn't go, but my best friend, he's played a bunch of like AAU ball and stuff locally, and a bunch of his buddies played at that Christian Academy, and they went to like South Carolina and stuff after that. But he went to the game. Zion had 37 and 17, didn't have one dunk. Like that's just how good he was in high school.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we're not letting him dunk. He still put up 37 and 17 points. Like I think he had like 6 or 7 blocks. Like just like craziness. Like Zion is, man, he's just so much fun to watch. So you got to at least call on him. I hope they at least call on him. And I think, I'm somebody like we could talk about like, I'm okay with trading Miles Bridges in certain situations. I think we have this. There's like this. Oh wait, one more thing on Zion before we move on off him. He is the most doubled player in the last 15 years in the NBA. Like the most double team player. There's a graph. He's double teamed 28% of the time he touches the ball. Which is like the graph. The middle of the graph is at 6%. And so he's the most double team player in all of basketball in the last 15 years, which is just insane. But to move on to Miles Bridges, I think the reason I think the Hornets might make a swing move is because I think that Miles Bridges or Mark Williams or both of them are not going to be on the team next year. At least one of them, and I think probably both. There was the Hoops Hype report, which they have a lot of really good insiders that said basically everybody not named LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are going to be available, and I guess T. Johnson wanted to. But the two names that were named were Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. I imagine T. John's safe as well, though. And like I said, everybody's available, and I could just see a world where you already traded Mark Williams once. I think the vibe that I got from reading all the reports after the trade rescinding with the Lakers is that most of the NBA front office thought that the Lakers swindled the league instead of the Hornets were the ones who were pulling a fast one. I mean, all the reports were saying that the Lakers had access to the medicals well before the trade happened. It was a fast moving trade, but it was open and available, and it might have been more of a buyer's remorse thing. I hate making claims about that just because I'm trying to be, there isn't an official, that's nothing you can ever be official on, but most of the league, from what I've seen, most of the general managers think that the Lakers regretted the trade more than the Hornets lied about his physicals. And then Mark Williams comes back and he tears it up once he comes back from the trade. So I think there's a world where you do get good value for Mark Williams. And I think there's a world where the Hornets also don't want to pay him. So there is a world where I could see him getting moved. And that he could be a piece in if you're going after something larger, a bigger fish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel the same way about Mark. I don't know how much him coming back to Charlotte changed his value, especially he played well for those first few weeks, but man, there are some real struggles with Mark Williams on both ends of the floor. So I don't know how much his value really changed coming back from Charlotte. I think it really all just comes back down to his medicals. Like you said, the Lakers seem to be scared off by something. And if other teams have the intel of what they got scared off from, the asking price for Mark Williams goes down. And really maybe the price goes down just because like all of that stuff like leaked out. Like, the trade got rescinded. Who's going to trade another first round pick for Mark Williams? That just kind of puts egg on the face of another organization that makes that move. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him again. I wouldn't be surprised if Miles Bridges got traded. I wouldn't be surprised if LaMelo got traded at this point. Like and I'll say this till the day that I die. The day Luka Doncic got traded, the NBA was changed forever because nobody is safe. Like nobody in the league is safe. Everybody in the league is available to be traded. If you're trading a 25-year-old, 3 straight first team All NBA, face of your franchise, loved by everybody in the city guy. So yeah, that I would not be.
I would have given up every single player on our team for Luka Doncic. You could have had LaMelo, Brandon, Miles, Mark, Tijon, Musa. I love Musa, man. You could have Musa. I don't care.
They could have pulled you out of whatever section your season tickets are in to play alongside Luka Doncic.
I'm 6'4", man. I got a little bit of a jump shot. You just give me the ball. I mean, they're not going to guard me,
Right.
It's going to be 5-on-1. Luka's going to average like 40 points, and we're going to score 42.
Yeah.
God, I would have leave it. I'll never forget that trade. I thought the only trade in my lifetime that I was going to be like, not maybe the only trade in my lifetime, but was when Kevin Durant got traded kind of out of nowhere to Phoenix. I was in my apartment, my last apartment. I was in bed and it was late, and then my phone buzzed. I'm like just happened to look at my phone, and it was freaked out. It was up until late, and then same thing with Luka trade. It happened 11:45 at night. I was in bed. I was just set my alarm for work the next morning, and then my phone goes off. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't go to bed like 3 a.m. I was I'm sitting in the chair behind me, calling my friends. Did you see the trade? Like, this can't be real. No, but that was craziness. Yeah, definitely. I don't think we trade LaMelo, but I can never say anybody's safe because of the Luka trade, as you said.
Yeah, for sure. And the most interesting thing to me from exit interviews a few weeks ago is just the consistent messaging of the core four. I don't know who started that. I don't know when that started. I hate it. As a kid who grew up in New York in the late 90s, as a Yankees fan, the core four are the four Yankees guys: the Jeter, Posada, Pettit, Bernie Williams. That's the core four, man. This is a Mickey Mouse core four here in Charlotte. And it's funny that they continue to call them the core four, even though the front office traded one away, and they're still referring to them as the core four. It's crazy to me that that's still the messaging coming out, but I guess
Eric Collins kind of hesitated that first game when Mark was back. Say core four. I remember that he was like, "Oh, the core four." He kind of didn't say it at first. I was like, "Yeah, that's how you know it's cooked."
Yeah, I think it does more damage to Mark's psyche if you had just stopped doing it completely. I do appreciate how they really just reintegrated him back to everything right away. Mm-hmm. I feel like from the outside looking in, from being in the press conferences, listening to Charles talk, listening to Mark talk, there was minimal awkwardness compared to how that situation.
Yeah, he handled it very well.
Everybody in the organization deserves a lot of credit for how that was handled, because it's not no one in Charlotte's fault that Mark is not playing for the Los Angeles Lakers against the Timberwolves right now. So kudos to everybody to handle it, but still crazy to me that they're calling it the core four still. That's just wild.
I think Mark Williams is more okay with it because they sent him to the Lakers. If they had traded him to Washington, maybe he'd be a little bit more upset. Really, you dumped me to Washington, but going to the Lakers, I mean, that's if you're gonna go anywhere right now, especially with them having Luka, Jackson Hayes is not playing very well either. He looked very bad. So they're gonna need a center. I think that they might be going after some of the guys we just talked about potentially. You can see him trying to trade for Sabonis. So do you have any other trade candidates you're interested in this offseason? Or you said you don't think they're making a swing, but are there any guys you would kind of look at, that might be available? Maybe not big guys, but, more role player guys?
Yeah, they're role player guys. I don't know. I don't know if you consider Jabari Smith a role player, and I don't know where he's at. Yeah, I don't know where he's at in the hierarchy in Houston, but he's a guy. When I think of a fake LaMelo Ball trade, I want Jabari Smith to be included in it. But even if it's not for LaMelo, I mean, Jabari Smith is kind of on the outskirts of that rotation in Houston, and they just have so many wings forwards that are soaking up playing time. So if Houston were to make a move to get a Kevin Durant this summer, to get a Devin Booker, whoever Houston acquires to try to move themselves over the top. If Charlotte can somehow sneak in there and steal Jabari Smith Jr. on the cheap, then I would feel great about that. Isaac Okoro is someone that was kind of rumored last summer.
He becomes a lot cheaper with their moves.
Yeah, so he's another guy.
Guys.
Yeah, I think I just think of I can't get Hornets DNA out of my head ever since they started saying it last summer. Everything I look at in the lens of the Hornets is ran through this idea of Hornets DNA, and I think of guys that are tenacious defenders, guys that are gonna work hard, whatever. So just wings really is who I think of when I think of Hornets trading for somebody.
Davion Mitchell's a guy. I don't think he gets out of Miami, but he feels like a Hornets DNA guy. I have to tell you, I haven't said this story. I went to I was invited by a season ticket holder to go meet the players couple weeks ago, and I met everybody. But we met Seth Curry and Josh Okogie in the Hornets locker room, which was cool. As soon as you walk in the door, you kind of make a little turn, and then right when you make the turn, on the wall is a fingerprint, and it says Hornets DNA. Like on the wall. I should have got a picture of it. I didn't. I don't know why I didn't, but it's on the wall as soon as you walk in the locker room. It's huge. It's, like my whole wingspan. And I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
Like across the wall, like right when you walk in the locker room. And it's crazy. Like it was just wild. I don't know why I haven't mentioned that before, but I saw it and I'm like, man, it looked cool. I'm like, if it wasn't corny, it looked awesome. Like, if we didn't have 19 wins this year, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
But
print that on the Eastern Conference Championship T-shirts in a couple of years.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool. It'd be cool, like playoff shirt. If we're, like you are more in the shirts, that'd be kind of sick. But that's Davion Mitchell's a guy, like I was saying, he feels like the Hornets DNA type, but I think he's also like a heat culture kind of guy too, so he's gonna be sucked on there. But definitely, I could imagine. I feel like the Suns are obsessed with Miles Bridges. I feel like every time Miles Bridges is brought up in trade rumors, they're always somebody who's mentioned. Maybe if the Kevin Durant trade happens, Jabari Smith comes here, Miles Bridges goes there, and we get some other, contract stuff. Maybe like a Grayson Allen or something. If they're trying to remodel everything, he could be a guy that you could see, on the team. I don't know. I've never done that mock trade before, but that's feeling something like the contracts would kind of match up there. I don't know if I want to pay Grayson Allen that much money now that I think about it, but he's just the first bigger contract that came to my mind.
Yeah.
Just don't give me Bradley Beal. That's all I ask.
Bradley Beal will not waive his no trade clause to come to Charlotte. I can promise you that.
God, no. He wouldn't waive it to go to like Miami. Like, it was just crazy to me.
Nope. Yeah, he's not going to waive it to go cut a check and sit under a palm tree in South Beach. He is not going to waive his no trade clause to run around Freedom Park in downtown Charlotte. So
yeah, God, no.
Got no worries there.
No worries at all. So I have a couple of free agents I've been looking at as well. Some definitely Hornets DNA guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, one more trade question. I was looking at my notes here. If the Hornets land Flag, somehow get the first pick and we land Flag, are you somebody slide Miles to the 3 or put Cooper at the 3 and run the lineup we got now? Or are you somebody who's like maybe trade Miles in a Cooper situation? Like, what do you sit at with that?
Yeah, if Miles is blocking Cooper Flag from playing his natural position, you have to get rid of Miles eventually. And maybe he starts the season here and gets flipped before the deadline. But yeah, again, I think you could play all 4 of those guys together: LaMelo, Brandon, Miles, Cooper. Especially because Miles really did make a leap on defense this year, and James Plowright, one of the other co-hosts of BuzzFeed, guy used to work with the Hornets on SI. Yeah, he was on this podcast.
He was on the show too. Yep.
He's talked a lot about Miles's kind of like defensive rejuvenation this year. His block rate, his steal rate is way up, and just kind of saw Miles has always been pretty physical on offense, kind of like bullying his way to the basket. I feel like I saw him do that a lot more on defense as well.
Yeah.
Really, he had no choice but to take on the opposition's like most imposing wing because he was starting at power forward for the Hornets with smaller guys alongside him. So that said, I do think the four of those guys plus Mark, thinking of the starting 5, can play together and play
Furious
pretty well
5.
together. What's that?
The Furious 5.
Yeah, the Furious 5, right? Fast 5 is what we got in Charlotte. So yeah, I don't think landing Cooper necessarily means you have to trade Miles, but I do think Miles becomes a little bit more expendable if the Hornets do land Cooper.
Yeah, no. A couple things with Miles. I saw. I don't know if you saw the post today, but apparently he was working out with Kemba Walker today. Already getting with the offseason because Kemba is playing in the what is the big three? Big three. Yeah, I'm like they're 3 something. But he's playing in that, which is pretty exciting. I'm excited to watch Kemba hoop again. But they were working out together, and Miles in his exit interview did say that he's gonna take maybe like a week or 2 off and then be back and working, which he said he's never done before, which is kind of concerning. But I guess maybe the coaching staff got into him. I believe in this coaching staff. I don't know where you feel on this coaching staff. I think that they needed a year with the guys, but I feel like you saw, at least when everybody was healthy, the defensive intensity was up. I mean, I think LaMelo played some of the best defense of his career to start the season, and then as guys kind of fell, I think LaMelo played some of the best basketball of his career as like early to middle part of the season. And I said, as the team fell apart, he kind of regressed back into some of his issues. And then I think he also was struggling with the pain in his joints, which sounds like this is going to be better, which is, I'm really high on LaMelo next year is all I'm saying with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really believe in the coaching staff. Like, how do you feel about the coaching staff?
Yeah, I feel great about the coaching staff. I think a lot of folks, and myself included, have had times this year where we've been a little turned off by Charles's relentless positivity in the media room, but he kind of has no choice but to do that at this point. If you were to come in there and like mother F everybody in his first year as one of the youngest head coaches in the league, then it's just going to not come off as genuine. I think his positivity is genuine. I think he really is the kind of guy that is like glass half full, sees the best of a bad situation. And I think the guys respect that. But you see him on the sidelines, like having stern conversations with the players. And when the players are at the podium or you hear them talk, they kind of talk about how Charles does have not a mean streak, but like he does get on them in the way that you think like a more traditional Steve Clifford kind of coach would. So I think Charles does really balance the best of both worlds. I think you got to give him a lot of grace for this first year because they started 46 different starting lineups, the second most in the league, whatever that number ended up being. He was kind of dealt like a pretty rough hand. But the one thing I'll say about Charles is every time I was able to sit in an opposing coach's press conference, I asked them about Charles. I said, hey, been a tough year for him. What have you seen from him like coaching in year one? And every opposing coach raves about him, his intensity, his process mindset. And they can see that the opposing coaches can see that, like things have been pretty rough, like context wise for Charles and the Hornets this past year, but things are moving in the right direction. So I'm still like fully bought into Charles and his coaching staff. I think if we're talking at this point in 2027, 2 seasons from now, and there's been no progress, then like I'm out, but he has to get at least 2 or 3 years to really implement his vision for the aforementioned Hornets DNA.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. Thank I didn't know that was you who asked those questions, so thank you, because I use those a lot, those quotes from other coaches a lot to defend Charles Lee. I didn't know that was you asking those questions.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you on that, because you've given me some ammunition to defend Charles Lee. That
Absolutely.
helps. Yeah, no, definitely. He built a reputation as an assistant coach as well. I mean, being a Bud guy and then going with Joe Mazzulla and Boston. Boston is a good game with Orlando right now. I got the game right over here next to me. But I think he built a reputation in both Atlanta and then in Milwaukee and then in Boston before coming here, where a lot of coaches knew who he was. He was always in the radar as a guy who could be picked up as head coach. And I think, he has he has a reputation, and like a good one at that. So it's good to hear, other coaches rave about that. And I think, like you were saying, Lee is a positive guy by nature. I've attended a lot of games in Charlotte. I feel like a few times his wife sat behind me with their kids. He would see him point and wave and smile and be like, obviously it's his kids, but he always has like such a genuine smile. And those are the same smiles. Him waving at his kids is what I see at the podium when he's talking about his guys and being positive. I think he's a positive guy by nature, but I'd rather have a guy, especially a first year head coach, be positive to the media and then go be more hard in practice. You'd rather have that the other way around.
Absolutely.
I think, definitely. I believe, I just believe in Charles Lee, man. I think he needed a year to be a coach before he goes in the offseason, and seeing, Miles Bridges already working again this season, like this offseason. I think that's part of that Hornets DNA we keep talking about. And I think he is implementing stuff. And I'm seriously like seeing that today has made me less likely we're trading Miles, because he feels like he's bought in and he's working with the guys. I mean, I didn't think we were going to trade Mark Williams at the deadline last year either, though, so can't know for sure. But I'm at least hopeful with Miles on this team. I just need to see him perform well as a third or fourth option, because I feel like he plays his best when everybody's hurt and he's just out there hooping.
Yep. Absolutely.
So last thing we talked about is a couple free agents that at least I've been looking at. I think if you have any, I don't know if you've seen any that you are interested in, but there's two guys specifically. Miles Turner's the first one. The Pacers didn't extend him during the season when they had their window too, which makes him an unrestricted free agent this offseason. He shot 40% from three. He's averaging 15.6 points per game. He's only 28. They don't ask him to pass the ball a lot because of Tyrese Halliburton, but we see that he can facilitate a little bit. I think he's at least a league average passer. So he could be a guy you run those actions through, and they'd have to respect him as a three-point shooter more than about any other center in the league, not named like Karl-Anthony Towns. So I think he could be a really good fit in Charlotte. We talked about, are the Hornets going to hold on to Mark Williams? If you get rid of Mark Williams, you could trade him for depth and get Miles Turner. I said Miles Bridges. Miles Turner, have a couple miles on the team. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, it would feel like the culmination of 5 years of rumors about Miles Turner coming to Charlotte, man. Like, I mean, every offseason, every trade deadline, it feels like Miles Turner to Charlotte has some sort of juice to it, but it has never actually happened. Financially, I don't know if it's possible. They would need to move off the Nurkic contract, move off the Josh Green contract to have enough money to afford him. But it's going to be interesting in free agency because nobody has cap space other than Brooklyn. So hard to figure that out financially for Miles Turner. But if nobody has cap space, then these guys are going to have to agree to deals that are probably below market value for them. So you never know how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, definitely. And with the Pacers not signing him, there's a chance they might move on from him. And there's a chance that Brooklyn doesn't have cap space after this, like during this offseason. Because I keep seeing all these rumors that Giannis might get traded there. He's been in press conferences talking about how he wants to win and he's got businesses in New York and he likes New York City and Brooklyn is supposedly going to be pursuing it pretty hard. He would be a nice guy to trade for. I'd give up everything for Giannis. Especially if you can keep LaMelo and Brandon. If you can give up Miles, Mark, and 5 first, give me Giannis. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We'll
don't hate that.
Yeah, definitely. And the other free agent I have on here is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He feels like a Hornets DNA guy. He can combo guard. He's only 26, so he kind of fits the timeline. He shot 38% from 3 on 5 attempts. Averaged 9.4 points. He had a good assist turnover ratio, and he played all 82 games. He feels like a guy you could run off the bench, or if you want to put Brandon at the 3, you could start him at the 2. He has very, very similar physicals to Josh Green. They're the same height and almost identical weights. Josh Green's a little younger, but I'm just kind of not the highest on Josh Green, He just is one of those guys that I feel like his defense wasn't that good this year, wasn't as advertised. I think the team defense from Dallas before was so good that it kind of he could be a one-on-one defender and look okay, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a much better defender, and he's great from 3. And I don't know the Timberwolves have to sign a lot of guys this offseason. They got to bring back Naz Reid, which I think they traded Cat so they could. So I think he's a guy I would mention for the Hornets, but I think that they're going to give him a bunch of money. But Nickeil Alexander-Walker could kind of fall through the cracks.
Yeah, big fan of Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a upgrade on Josh Green. I think everything you said about him is true. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter, long, good defender, probably a little more athletic than Josh Green at the basket. Josh Green is a good athlete, but never have I seen him try to go up and dunk on somebody. He's don't want to call him passive attacking the basket, but he's more of a finesse player around the rim, when I feel like Alexander Walker kind of gives you more of the punch at the rim. Not that he's going to be pressuring the rim off the handle, but a little momentum turning dunk is never a bad thing. And I feel like Alexander Walker gives you that ability more than Josh Green. So yeah, big fan of him, especially if the Hornets can get him with their mid-level exception. I think he's the perfect kind of guy to bring in that, like you said, fits the mold, fits the Hornets DNA, fits the timeline, the whole deal.
Yeah, no, definitely. Josh Green is kind of like post-suspension Miles Bridges, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is kind of like pre-suspension Miles Bridges.
There you go.
Kind of the similar athleticism, but just he's a little bit more. He gets a little bit higher. Definitely still see some dunks by Josh Green. he always had like some fast break dunk or some baseline dunk, But Nickeil Alexander-Walker has played 82 games the last 2 seasons too, which is definitely something to be positive about. He did a few years. I think when he got traded, he played like 65 games that year, and then he played 40 something the year before that. But other than that, he's been a very healthy guy in his career. So I'm definitely very positive on him. Any other free agents that you have looked at? I know we kind of I just threw those free agents on there like kind of last minute.
Yeah, for sure. Jake LaRavia, former now King, former Grizzly, as just like a guy that's going to come fill it up as a shooter off the bench. I think Charlotte really needs to kind of find a guy like that this summer.
Yeah.
He maybe doesn't give you the defense that the Hornets DNA quote unquote guys do, but the Charlotte has just such a desperate need for shooting, and he's one of the best 3-point shooters on the free agent market this summer. He's the guy I'm looking at. Luke Kennard, same deal. Maybe I just have a thing for white guys who played for the Kings, but Luke Kennard is another one who, really, really solid shooter, can come in, not really run your offense off the bench, but you can run some actions through him. Alexander Walker is another one that I've kind of had my eye on for the last few week and a half here since the season ended, and I've kind of been a little more forward focused with my thinking. So those are the 3 that I've done a little bit of work on, but I mean, there's plenty of free agents this summer. I mean, Malik Beasley signed with the Pistons for $6 million and was a 6th Man of the Year finalist. So I think people, and in myself, he's a guy that's thinking Charlotte is pretty strapped for finances this offseason. They're operating as an over the cap team. They're not good enough to pay the luxury tax. If they do, that would be insane. But there are impact players to be had at the $14 million and under price tag, like we just saw last summer. So, do I trust Charlotte to find those guys? I'm not sure, but they're out there, and Charlotte needs to find a couple of impact guys off the bench with the limited finances they have.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I don't know how much money he's going to want, but a backup point guard like Trey Jones, he's going to be available. They have way too many guards in Chicago, so I don't know if he comes back to Chicago. He's unrestricted free agent. I'm just kind of scrolling through right here looking.
Really, my number one, and this is draft related. If the Hornets land Cooper Flag, they kind of accelerate the timeline a little bit. They bring back the core that they have. The number one free agent I want them to sign is Chris Paul.
I think be amazing.
Bringing him home to North Carolina for the twilight of his career. Veteran leader for this young team. He played all 82 games this past year, which is insane for a 6'0" point guard his age. Just shout out Chris Paul, man. Like I as a free agent, he has been oozing Hornets DNA since he was a Hornet 15 years ago or however long that was. So yeah, he's another guy on my list. If the Hornets land Cooper Flag, their timeline gets a little bit accelerated. They want to make a push for the play-in playoffs. He's a super solid backup for LaMelo Ball. He kind of just raises the professionalism for the franchise as well. God, he's a great guy to put in front of the media, kind of like Grant Williams was last year. So yeah, if the lottery balls fall in their favor because you are not picking them, apparently, Evan.
I just sent it again while we were talking like a minute ago, and we got the 6th pick again, and we got it again. We got 7th that time. Oh my god!
I'm gonna pray every day from here until was it May 12th that you are not the one pulling the lottery balls out of the machine.
Not me. Rod Boone will be there probably. He's there every year, so hopefully he has got the luck this year.
Yeah. So Chris Paul, that's another free agent to add to the list here.
Yeah, no, Chris Paul will be awesome, especially if you can get him. If he's just your Taj Gibson this year. Way better than Taj Gibson. Love Taj Gibson. Shout out Taj Gibson. Great guy. He's a guy I would like as like your 14th, 15th man. Probably 14th. I think the team probably leaves a roster spot open, depending. But I mean, look at all the guards that Chris Paul played with and how much better they got. You got, Shea. He played with Shea out in Oklahoma City. Well, we saw his growth after that. And then he was, with Devin Booker. They went to a finals. Devin Booker improved a lot. I mean, he was already good before, but definitely got more mature with that. And then he goes to Golden State. They obviously have all their people there. They didn't have any young guards. I mean, Steph is also there, so Steph's going to be another one of those dudes. Then he ends up in San Antonio. I mean, he didn't play with Fox long, and Fox was good. But, I mean, Stephon Castle, he looked great and he improved throughout the season. I think a big part of that is because of Chris Paul.
Yeah,
I think he's
absolutely.
I could imagine Chris Paul coming to Charlotte, retiring a Hornet. It would be kind of serendipitous with him starting with the Hornets as well, but New Orleans. And I can see him as a guy who ends up on our coaching staff or another coaching staff right after that. Him and Kemba would be really cool as a coaching staff, guards on the team. But yeah, no, definitely point guards. I think we need a backup point guard, and Chris Paul could be that. Trey Mann. I think Trey Mann is coming back. I don't know if you saw his tweet the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but kind of am. I tweeted 45 minutes before Trey Mann tweeted about that. Postseason's coming to Charlotte. Don't just next season. Don't worry. He had been radio silent on social media for a long time. Like I said, I went to that Hornets player meeting. Every Hornet was there, including Jalen Sims, but Trey Mann was not there. I hadn't seen him on the sideline for many games,
mm-hmm.
And he had the back stuff. I tweeted 40 minutes before he tweeted that. I'm like, I don't know if Trey Mann's coming back next year. I'm like, I would love to have him back, but I got a list of reasons why. 40 minutes later, he's like, coming back. We're like Charlotte. We're postseason next year. So I feel like, he posted all the videos of him working out, and that was it. Like he hadn't posted anything about Charlotte or anything. But I think that the team and him maybe kind of under the table agreed, like, hey, we'll bring you back for this amount of money. Just sit out. I know it's hurting your value on the free agency market, but we'll pay you this much money if you just stay quiet. And he proved he's healthy. He's dunking and being physical with guys. And runs. But Trey Mann is the only Hornet who has liked more than one of my tweets. So I feel like he's seen my stuff. So my brain, I'm like, maybe he saw something. I don't know. Maybe he saw. I was like, let me just talk real quick. But
he's got the Super Hornet notifications on.
Something like that. I hope so. That'd be
Noti gang, Trey Mann.
Yeah, no, I wore his jersey to a Panthers game, and I posted a picture of it. And I'm like, because my cat was sitting on the jersey, I'm like, ready for the Panthers game. Shout out Trey Mann. He liked it in like 2 seconds. I'm like, oh, I guess he's on Twitter right now. He was the first like on the post.
Yeah, he's definitely got that searches his name on Twitter because he's liked a couple of my tweets about him talking about his game too. So he's pretty online, it seems.
Yeah, I think him and Miles and Nick Smith Jr. are some guys I see that are on a little more than other guys. Yeah. They've all liked one of my things at least once. LaMelo liked one of my tweets one time. That was pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy. I was nervous when I met him, and he was like super cool. But you got anything else to add for off-season hopes and wishes other than getting Cooper Flag and winning a championship?
No, man. It starts and ends with Cooper Flag for me. May 12th is lottery. If for whatever reason the good Lord above graces us and we don't see the Charlotte Hornets logo until pick number 1, that changes everything for the franchise. So until then, it's kind of status quo. Once the lottery balls get drawn, we'll kind of have a better idea of where to go from there.
Dude, I'll lose my mind if we get that first pick. I saw a stat today. I don't know who posted it. It was one of the big Charlotte accounts. Maybe it might have been James who posted it. Now I think about it. The Hornets had been in the lottery 23 times. Or no, it was Crown Club posted it. Shout out Crown Club.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw this.
We've been in the lottery 23 times, which is the second most. So we've only got the first pick once. 91 with Larry Johnson. I wasn't even alive. We've been very bad since I've been born, and here we are. But so maybe we'll get graced by that. Probably not. Or we're gonna get the second pick. Is how it goes. When there's a guy like Cooper Flag in the draft, the Hornets get the second pick.
Yep. That's right. Dylan Harper, solid consolation prize.
Yeah, Dylan Harper. I think he could run the 2 guard in Charlotte too, or be the backup one if we need a backup point guard. Could be that backup one at least to start his career. But I think he could run with LaMelo very well. Good size. We didn't mention him in the show, so shout out Dylan Harper. Definitely the number 2 guy on the board. I think that's going to do it, though. Matt, thank you for coming on, man. Like I said, all his links will be in the description. Great guy in the Hornets community. One of my favorites to look at his stuff. I read all. I don't have your post notifications on, but every time I see you, like, you're always one of the first people that comes up in my feed because I look at your stuff so much. I love your writing. You're great at that. Maybe if you don't write for the Panthers anymore, I could take your job for there. I'm trying to get there. Trying to get with the Sports Illustrated at some point. I write for FanSided right now. Just got my first paycheck today, actually.
Love that, man.
My first media paycheck, which is pretty neat.
Love that. It's an intoxicating feeling.
It was $10.
Gotta start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere. So I mean, hey, I'll take it. But thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I always end the show by saying go Hornets and enjoy basketball. So everybody just, support your team. I've actually got some fans from other teams now watching Super Hornet stuff. So if your team's in the playoffs, hope they do well. But my team isn't. Our team isn't. Hopefully they're next year. So go Hornets and enjoy basketball.